I'm going to say something here. This might be a bit controversial. Those people, those lovely people that come in, yourself who come in and buy the book, you are the ones that actually make it a bestseller, not us.
Yeah.
Not us.
Right, but that is outside the cover. So when I'm shopping around, it's already written bestseller, so I stop. And then I'm like, okay, what makes this bestseller? So you guys, you do the covers. So you put in the thing.
We do the covers, but go look at any first edition book. You won't see bestseller on a first edition print. You'll only see it after a certain number. Remember, every time we reprint, so sometimes a book might win an award, right? And maybe it's the 5th time we're reprinting it. Then we put something on the jacket that says this award winner or Sunday Times winner, whatever it is, or bestseller. But we can't just put it there live.
But we say bestseller based on past sales of previous books.
I think my first question is for my two publishing houses. So I'm gonna put you guys back there.
Okay,
that's fine. So if you can please just introduce yourself to everyone watching, which publisher you're representing, who you are, and what makes your publishing house stand out from in the industry or in the traditional publishing world. I'll start with you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is First Chetty. I work for Penguin Random House. I'm the head of trade sales for the company. So my job, or I consider it a privilege, is to sell books into the stores. So we cater to all the major exclusive books, the bargain books, the take-a-lots, and the major booksellers in the country. Then we've got another division that looks after all the smaller stores, supermarkets and things like that. So I cover the main book business of it. I started off with the company in 2017. I was just telling Graham here. I was a sales rep. I used to rep into stores. I was all the way up in Pretoria and outlying all the way up in Johannesburg. So I've been in here for a long time. But now I sort of manage the reps and I manage some sales managers as well. So in our company, we call them product and sales managers. So it's sort of a dual role. And what they do is basically bring the book, sell the book, and eventually just generate that revenue for our company. So that's a bit of a long-winded introduction, I apologize. But I want to give you an understanding of what it is I do. And Penny, you absolutely lucked out. We've got 4 sales managers in the company, and I'm one of the 4 that actually likes doing these things. And I manage the local list, so you really lucked out. I can really give you good stuff today, I think, in the experience that I have, because I also manage the local lists. So all the local publications that come out, from fiction to non-fiction, cookery, nature, all of it. I basically bring it from a seed to what you see on the shelf with the team that we work with. So I've got a lot of knowledge to share, and I'm happy to give it best.
Good evening. Yeah, that sounds better. My name is Graham Isaacs. I'm the sales representative for Pan Macmillan, and I've been with Pan Macmillan this year made 27 years. And I've started off as a junior rep, and prior to that I worked for 7 years for CNA as a bookseller and sales manager and books manager for CNA. I'm also a published children's picture book author, and Pan Macmillan, we publish a vast range across different genres. We're competitive with our pricing. And we are the smallest of the major trade publishers. We are the core trade publishers. The other publishers in the top 4 is Penguin Random House, Jonathan Hall, and NB. And like my colleague here, my friend here was saying to me, it's always fun to be out in the stores and to see what people are buying and getting excited about a new book, and see the enthusiasm also from the store managers that we sell to. And it's not always easy, because there's a lot of factors that they take into account, like stock holding. We also look at the risks that they have to take and we have to take. But there is a market for new stories, and everybody's got a story to tell.
Okay, is both your publishing houses not like focusing on a specific genre, or is it everything?
That's definitely everything, because if you look at what we've published over the years, we've published memoirs, current affairs, politics, sports biographies where we use a ghostwriter. We publish children's books locally, and we have a range of established authors and newcomers. And and that's the way going forward.
Okay, that's amazing. Okay, so for writers who are new in the industry, can you use this? For writers who are new to the industry, what does the traditional publishing process look like? That's from the manuscript submission up to the bookshop. So how does that look like? So take the person who is writing, let's say, there are a lot of writers now on Facebook. I've met a lot of them who have written so many books on Facebook, and they told me that, one day they want their books to be published. So can you just give a brief summary of the process? Where does it begin? From the manuscript up until it lands to your desk, up until it gets to a bookstore. What's the process look like?
All right. It is a long process from when you submit the manuscript. There is lots of things to be taken into consideration. The manuscript has to be proofread. You need to get to a reviewer. Once a reviewer comes back with feedback, and you as a publisher think that this is a book, what we call in inverted brackets, publishable, then you take the next steps. A contract needs to be drawn up. Then it must go to the editors. And there's a whole process after that. Now it becomes a jacket design, a layout, typesetting, and then again for a second time again proofreading, because it's humans behind a computer. So we can make spelling mistakes, we can make grammar mistakes, and from there then it becomes the publishing, the printing, the distribution into stores, sales, and then the promotions. Then it's marketing, then it's you as the writer must be available for promotions, for book launches, for little events like this as well. So it can take a very long process. From the time you submit your manuscript, it could even take up to a year before you get an answer.
2 years.
A year, I would say.
Yes. Okay, because I have a question there about that person. Somewhere here about the period, that one of the questions that I've received from the author's perspective. So why they will go the publishing book. So you've touched on that, but I will touch on that later on, because we want to understand the timing, because they've also written the books, and the process it takes you guys as publishers to actually get the book on the shelf, Now we've decided that you like Penny's book, Now you are going to go for it. But then Penny is waiting now for...
It also depends on when Penny submits your manuscript, because by the time you submit your manuscript, we may have already secured our publishing slots for the year.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
The one thing that artists don't realize, and writers are artists, is that this is a business.
It's an art. It's
It's an art, but we have to handle the business side of the art. And artists don't get that. And for all you writers sitting out here, I want you to understand something. You have to understand the business of it. You have to take a part in the business of it. Because if you don't, your book's not going anywhere. I can sell it to my heart's content, but whether that customer comes in and buys it, half of that is you. And we've had authors who are so proactive and so energetic. When their book hits the shelf, they do not stop until that book is selling. And that's what we need. We need that sort of energy. So like Graham says, there's a whole big process. There's a plan. We have strategies in place in terms of what we publish, how much we publish, whether it will even work in the market. Sometimes books are not timed correctly. So a book might come out now and do well. Sometimes it might come out now and not do well. But you publish it 2 years after, and it's a major hit. Timing is everything in the business, and people don't realize that. But you only realize that when you're in the business. That's the thing. You have to be in it to understand it. And we've been in it for a long time, and we understand how it works out. We had an author, Sven Axel, there, who's probably one of the most beloved authors in the industry right now. Sven came out, he was presented his book, which is the third book we publish now, was actually his first book. We turned it down the first time. We said we didn't really see it, we didn't understand it. And then we published his second book. People loved it. He got nominated for the Sunday Times Award. published the second book, people loved him even more. And now we published his third book, which is actually his first book that he submitted. So you can't give up at the same time.
Yeah, so once you are on that, you said you rejected his book for the first time, his first book basically, and he came with the second book, which was good. But then in terms of feedback, I just want you to take us through that. Take us through the feedback that you guys give the authors, because they've done so much work with their books and they're waiting for positive feedback from you guys. So now if I'm applying for a job, so obviously, if you're getting a rejection, like, sorry, Penny, you were like unsuccessful. How does that look like in the public? Do you guys even give feedback?
Of course. I'm just going to address that one. So how it works with us is we have a meeting. It's called a concepts meeting. We have 4 different ones in the month. Every month, without fail, we sit down 4 times and we decide. We get a list of stuff that they want to publish. Our publishers, we've got divisions, right? So nature, fiction, non-fiction.
Okay.
So we have 4 different teams, there's editors on each of those teams, there's typesetters, there's a whole bunch of people per team. We all sit down like a table, just like this, online sometimes, and we say, and they shoot ideas. And they say, this is the author, this is what she sold on a previous book, she's never been published before, but this is what we have. And if we love the idea, we're going to go, okay, so where do we actually place that in the market? That's where the business side comes in. But sometimes we just fall in love. And we are a team of people, like Graham's company is. We are a team of people who love books. We want to publish everything, but we can't. We have to make strategic decisions on it. Right? We want to publish it. So it comes to concepts. But before concepts, the editors have sat down with manuscripts. On our website, we've got a submissions page. It's capped. So after a certain time, we sort of block the box out so we don't get any more submissions until these guys have waded through all the different manuscripts. So let's just say, for example, you go to our submissions page, you submit your manuscript, there's 100 manuscript cap, we've just hit the 100, then we stop it. So we don't take any more, so you've got to keep trying. Once they get through those 100, they'll probably sift out about 10. From those 10, they might bring 5 to the concept meetings that month, right? From that 5, we'll sit down and go, okay, these are all great ideas. We could work with that. We can't work with that. Let's push that up. Or maybe we got an idea, but the idea is not right just yet. It needs to more work. So we'll send the editor back to the author and say, tell the author if they can maybe change it up here. This might actually work. So we go back to publishers, writers all the time.
Okay, good. You guys?
No, we actually follow the same process.
Okay.
And please, if you get rejected, please don't feel disheartened. Just try again. Re-look at your manuscript. Like I mentioned earlier, ask yourself, is my story of a high quality or is it publishable? Because you must remember, publishers is a business. And we have to keep the business profitable. And so do the bookshops. Our reading market is so small that we can't publish too many books that comes through to us, and also we also find that if you reach the right audiences, then you can sell more copies, you can sell more in volumes, and currently that's not happening. I mean, in South Africa, in fiction, a bestseller, if you sell 3,000 copies, it's called a bestseller. 3,000 copies.
That's little.
It's very little. When it comes to non-fiction, it's 10,000 copies. We've got such a small reading market in our country, and as we are all aware of what was announced a few years back, of how what was it, 20% of grade schools that can't even read for meaning?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
So it is a big concern.
Yeah, it is a big concern. That's why we have book clubs like Penny's book club.
Right, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, so I think you touched on something very important when you're talking about rejection.
Yes.
Because through this platform, my podcast, I meet a lot of self-published authors who will say that my book has done so much, it's done so well, but I was rejected by a few publishers. But through self-publishing, I have managed to actually make so much sales, and I'm happy with the route that I've taken. So now you have this self-publishing that has come to play. We are used to traditional publishing. You guys were leading before this whole thing, when people now find their way to actually do self-publishing now. So now, how does that affect your industry? because there are people who actually, when they hear about this podcast that is happening, they told me straight. They said, Penny, you know what? I believe in self-publishing. I don't. You know, traditional publishing is not for me. So they believe strongly on that, which means that they advocates of that as well. So now they are now your competition basically, because now for you to be in business, you have to get these authors to come in. So now authors, Penny is writing a book, I'm self-publishing, you know, and I'm not coming to you. So I'm just no, I'm just saying. So I'm just saying now, how are you dealing? Is it affecting your industry per se? Have you seen the shift in terms of your sales? Because of people going straight to the roots, you know, self-publishing. And remember now, when you're answering, please just add the social media part of it, because some people are writing books for free on social media. And then people are just reading those books. So now that was not happening before. So social media has come to play. And now how is that affecting the industry as a whole?
I would say to a certain degree, but it doesn't really affect us in a big way. It actually supports the fact that there are new authors out there are new books that's out there for people to read. And self-published authors must also remember that with the traditional publisher, they take all the financial risk, they take all the stock risk. And you get paid a royalty from your sales. But as for a self-published author, the financial risk is all on your own. The marketing, the publicity is all on your own. It's a very expensive process. And to try to get your book into a traditional publishing, into a general bookshop, you must remember that the general bookshops purchase books from the traditional publishers, and we have to give them a certain percentage based on their business with us. We have to take books back after 4 months, what has been sold. And it's a credit to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What we saw in the last couple of years is people have started doing that. And Graham is 100% right. It actually supports the industry. I'm a glass half full kind of guy. I think rising tide raises all boats. So if you get an author who's come through and he's successful and he has a book on the shelf that's selling, you get a customer that walks into the store, most likely he's going to buy that book, but he might buy one of Graham's books or one of my books too. He might buy a book for his kid. He might buy a book for his mom. You know, so it's a sort of rising tide situation. He's not going to just come buy that one book. So we believe when we have a hit, it's going to support other publishers as well, because they might buy one of Graham's books when they buy one of my books. There's nothing wrong with that. And because it's such a small industry, we kind of support each other like that. We've seen authors who come up. I mean, I've got authors who started off selling books from their car, sold thousands of copies online even, and then did 3 or 4 books like that. And now we've got them. We've got a few. We published Jackie Pomose's book last year. We're publishing Takalani's book coming up. She did 5 books in a series. She did so well on her own. And how she used to do it was, she had 500 people on Facebook. She'd publish the book. She'd sell the book to those 500 people. The sales of that 500 copies, she would use it to generate. She'd use it to print the rest of the stock. So she would market it herself. She did so well on her own. And I think I really admire that actually. That's not a competition to me. That actually supports.
Yeah, definitely supports. Definitely supports. It becomes about word of mouth thing. Yeah.
Yeah, Takalani, I've met her. She's done quite a lot for herself. So I didn't know that she's now with you.
I told you, getting into that stuff.
Because her books have always been in the shop. She's done a lot for herself. Yeah, so that was good, guys. I understand. I think also when we advertised this podcast, there were a lot of young people who were still preferring the traditional publishing. So for them, it means something. So yes, their self-publishing is gaining popularity, and it's good. It's good. But I saw a difference, like that side, that high. You know what? There's still a lot, and the youngsters, they really, really want to get into the traditional publishing. It means a lot to them. So there's nothing wrong with that. And I have other authors as well who have come even visit at our book club, they will tell me that you know what, I really thought my dream. I didn't care what happened. I didn't want to sell my book, like myself, and told it, I wanted it to be published. And for me, it's an achievement. So I think we can, like accept something like that. That yes, there is an audience also for self-publishing. I saw it. I really saw it before this. But then I must say also, what I've seen, the majority is the traditional publishing. So I must say that, yeah.
So we had an author, Nikki Greenmore. She was a presenter. She lives in Cape Town. She's a wonderful author. She wrote a book called A Short Life last year. Nikki, we weren't ready for Nikki. Nikki came from advertising. She still works in advertising. So she's got a real hustler's mentality. When you take a hustler's mentality like that, and then you come to Penguin or you come to Pan, and then you mix with the engine that we are. So we are, like Graham says, we are a complete engine. We've got a marketing team, we've got editors, we've got sales guys like myself. And then you take that sort of author who's got that real hustler's energy, and you bring it into a traditional ship like ours. It's a perfect storm. I'm telling you, she was out here printing her manuscript and handing it to exclusive books managers 3-4 months before the book was even published. And we had to go like, Nikki, you can't keep giving away copies of your book. Hang on, But she didn't care. She was giving out copies when the book published. She was giving it to smaller stores to sell. And then she had a target of 1,000 copies. That was her realistic target to sell. I sit here today. I think she sold 1,673 copies. And that came from pure just hustling, and she would email me every week and say, where we at, tell me, what more can I do? So if a writer comes to us and say, with that sort of mentality, I love it. As a salesperson, that's half my job already done. And the other half, I'll carry you the rest of the way. But you've got to come with us with that energy, because it's a business, and you have to be a salesperson and an artist if you want to write. Unfortunately, you're not Toni Morrison. You can't just write the book and disappear into the sunset. Doesn't work like that. You haven't achieved that sort of level yet. If you work in the Random House office in the US and your name is Toni Morrison or whoever it is, you could do that maybe. But even that, you're finding bigger authors. Kate Atkinson is an author like that for us. She's amazing. She's an amazing author. But she's one of those authors that will write the book, put it on the table, and go, I'll see her. I'll see you until the next book, and she'll deliver another great book. But now we're finding they need to come out and help us halfway, because we've got a book buying public that wants to see the author. They want to see who you are and go on your socials. Be good at social media. Learn how to play the social media angle, because that's a powerful channel.
The author has to be on social media. Yeah. And Instagram is the bigger platform.
Yeah.
And author involvement is so important. We've got an author, Tony Park. With every new book that he publishes, he even sets up his own events. And he just come to us, his publish and say, here is my potential events for the year. Let's see how we can make it work.
So they become proactive as
Yes.
well in their
Yes.
in the setting of their books. That's good. I think the social media has changed a lot of things, because the authors before, nobody wanted to know, to even see them. You just see the name of the author, and that's it. And you follow that author. It doesn't matter whether you meet the person or you see the person face to face. Now with the social media, we see them it's like TV, whatever. So I think it's changed a lot. They need to be out there as well, because the audience need to connect with them. So I think now with the traditional publishing also, you're quite right. They can't just sit back.
No,
they need to actually stand up.
Because if they just sit back, by the time that it comes to royalties, they're going to question, but how's my royalties so little? And we're going to say, but how many books have you sold?
Who decide what's the best? Who decide that this book is the best? Who made the decision? Because now we are seeing so many books in the store, and then it's bestseller. Who makes it?
I'm going to say something here. This might be a bit controversial. Those people, those lovely people that come in, yourself, who come in and buy the book, you are the ones that actually make it a bestseller, not us.
Yeah.
Not us.
Right, but that is outside the cover. So when I'm shopping around, it's already written bestseller. So I stop. And then I'm like, okay, what makes this book a bestseller? So you guys, you do the covers. So you put in the thing.
We do the covers, but go look at any first edition book. You won't see bestseller on a first edition print. You'll only see it after a certain number. Remember, every time we reprint, so sometimes a book might win an award, right? And maybe it's the fifth time we're reprinting it. Then we put something on the jacket that says this award winner or Sunday Times winner, whatever it is, or bestseller. But we can't just put it there live.
But we say bestseller based on past sales of previous books.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes, past sales, yes.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
What makes a manuscript or proposal stand out for your team, right? I think you mentioned a little bit of that. So for you to say this is going to be published, give me a scenario where there was one book that landed on your table and you were like, that's it. Have you ever had that?
Not from my side, I can't. Look, I'm from the sales team.
Yes.
But what I would like to say is, your book has to be of a high quality. Use Google. Grammar errors, spelling errors, check and recheck. Right? That's all I can say. And if it is of a high quality, it's more likely going to stand out to whoever reviews it and whoever makes a final decision on whether they want to take it on.
Oh, not ChatGPT. ChatGPT doesn't write books, guys, please.
No. Yeah, we read a lot in the background. So, like I said, before we even go to print or anywhere near the book, like I said, we have a concept meeting. We sit down, we discuss whether the book should actually be done. Should we take a chance on it? And then if we say yes, then the manuscript gets circulated with myself and other people on the panel, and then we read it through and through. Penguin did this great initiative in the last couple of years, but this is not for local, we did this more for international side, where we had a focused debut campaign. So what we said was, we publish 300-400 books a month, and a lot of them are focused debut authors, so first-time published authors. How do we actually bring a few to the fore? And then what we said was, okay, let's set up 10 or 15 books for the year, maybe less than 10. We read them cover to cover. If all of us on the panel love it, and that's not all the time, if all of us on the panel love it, then we're going to take this book and we're going to hand it to Chris, the manager, and say, Chris, this is the one. So we give that book an extra focus and we bring that author to the fore. And then we go from there, and we hope for the best. And even if we love it, that public that still has to buy it, and word of mouth still has to go around. So yeah, it's we can't really determine the bestseller, but we can determine and put out good books. That's what we can control. We can control good books. We can control good material being put out there, good covers. That sort of thing. That we work with them.
It's a similar process for us also at Macmillan. And when we all read a debut and we're behind it, then we would go to the product team at Exclusive Books head office, and Exclusive Books has got a campaign which they call EB Recommends. And then a book like that will eventually land up in EB Recommends, where it's the focus book for the month. And you will also see that EB has systematic sleeves, those covers that goes all over the systematic sleeves, and publishers buy slots for that. And if you've got a book that you want to promote, and then you pay for advertising your book on that systematic sleeves for the month, and it becomes book of the month in every Exclusive bookstore. So it's out there in the public space.
Awesome. Okay, so I just want to send a shout out or just a thank you to some of the sponsors of this event. There's Jack Rabbit. I forgot to mention them at the beginning, but yeah, Jack Rabbit, it's chocolate. They also sponsor the event, as well as Moedi Wines from Cape Town. So I just want to say thank you for sponsoring this event. So so we're going to continue. In fact, I'm gonna just not do that a little bit. I know I said we're gonna take questions at the end, but because we're at an interval, let's just ask questions from the audience and then we get back. Okay.
Thank you so much. So my daughter was supposed to ask the question. She's there because she's the author. She's written a children's book. She's 7. How does she get it into stores? She asked me. She said, Mommy, please ask them. And she was going to ask, how can I see my book when I get into this bookstore?
Well, it's managers like Chris that has to make that final decision. But I guess the first thing is you need to register with head office to become a vendor or a supplier, right, Chris? Right, and then it's individual store managers' decisions, because the store managers has been given buying power. You'll find that maybe your book is an exclusive book, Clearwater, but you're not finding it in Crest. It all depends on the market, and like I said, the managers have got buying power. They decide what they want to put into the stores, other than what is being bought simply from head office. You have to register as a supplier, as a vendor, and then just like I mentioned earlier on, just being aware of the fact that there will be financial risks, because you have to do distribution. If the book doesn't sell, you have to pick it up at your cost, and you will have to provide a discount off the recommended retail price, because no bookshop will take your book without a discount, and discount can go up to 50%.
Again, it follows the channels. We've got to put it through all the different departments that we work with. So it's got to be marketed, it has to be printed, and there's all the cost of shipping. This is all the boring parts of publishing, but it's such a valuable part, because that's like I said, the engine of it all. And then it gets to the shelf, and then you have to do promotions after that. So she's going to have to promote the book and go on socials and be active there as well, just to get people to know. Because you must remember, look around you, there's thousands of books here. How do you get a customer to look at the one book on the shelf? How do you do that? You've got to be able to angle the customer and say, here's something good, you've got to read it.
Also, want to add to that is that publishers won't look at the book that's already been published. She has to write a new story. She has to write a new book. Yeah.
I think it's easy for what you just said now, Grammy, for authenticity, if I can put it like that, because now with all these with book talks and whatever, and then now you start sitting and writing a book, then you're writing, so we see so many similarities in terms of books. People are writing the same things. We watch the same movies, like you're like, but I've seen this, So I think also for the publishing houses, it gets a little bit tricky for you guys to actually get that it's the original, It's not copied, or it's not someone's idea in the past. Because I always wonder about those things, and how do you detect something like that? Then now bring a book, maybe it was written like how many years ago, maybe 20 or more, 50 years ago. Then somebody wrote something. Have you ever had something like that?
I want to address that. I read this a couple of years ago, and it was a very interesting thing. There's an author I can't remember the author, but it was a big author, who said, if you're a writer, don't throw anything away. Don't ever throw any of your work away. Even if it's a small thing, keep it somewhere. You'll never know. And we've had so many authors who passed away, 10 years after they pass away, they find a new book. You know what I mean? It happens. And don't ever throw anything away. Keep everything, because those ideas can even become another idea later on down the line. So if you're a writer, don't ever throw anything away. I'll give you an example. Amo Towles. We published Amo Towles. He did this amazing book called A Gentleman in Moscow. Now there's a TV series based on it. He wrote another book called The Lincoln Highway. Huge smash all around the world. Everybody loved him. Last year or the year before, his editor in the US says, do you have anything? He says, I'm working on a new book, I've got nothing at the moment. Right? They go, okay, what do you have? He's sitting around, he goes, I don't know. Then he says, look, I've got about 6 good short stories, and I've got a novella that he did another book called Rules of Civility. That was actually his first book. And in Rules of Civility, there was a character called Eve. Halfway through the book, Eve disappears. She goes off to LA, and you don't hear anything about her until the end of that book. But he wrote a novella of Eve's adventures in Hollywood. And that book, along with the 5 short stories, or 6 of them, got published last year or the year before with us, called A Table for Two. So, and that was just to keep his market, because that's the other thing if you're an author. Don't disappear. You can't go off for too long. You've got to be in the market and keep writing. But you can't also, at the same time, you get authors who write, you get like authors who just keep pumping them out, which is good as well. But it depends on who you are and what your market is. But Amo basically said, I've got 6 short stories, I've got a novella, what can you do with that? They go, okay, your audience loves it, they're probably gonna buy it. So we brought it out. And then next year or the year after, we're probably gonna have, maybe even this year, we'll have a new one. Yeah. So never throw anything away. Keep every single thing that you write, because you never know timing. It might not work now, but that's not to say it's not gonna work in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years time.
Okay, so now my next question is now the publishing process. It takes about, it can take about 2 years from what after you've accepted the book and you're happy with the book, for it to get to the shops. It can take up to 2 years. So now I'm the writer. I've written my book and I know that this book is good, but it's still in this process for 2 years, right? For it hitting exclusive books. So what is your advice to the author that is that's waiting for the book to hit the shelf for them to actually get income from that, right? So what is your take on that? Because the majority of the authors, they are doing 9 to 5. They are working because obviously they can't wait, for things like that, for money, to come from your side. So what is your advice? So this is now coming from the young people now because they are scared of that. They are like, well, what's going to happen to me whilst I'm waiting for that? So must I carry on with my job? And then yes, other authors are saying, yes, carry on with your job and then write. But you guys as publishers, what are you saying? What is your take on it?
We have a saying in the office, and it goes like this: don't give up your day job. Bottom line, don't give up your day job. From the time when your book has been accepted, goes through the whole process, now there's a release date, right? We look, as publishers, we look at how many books can we release for that month. Because if you release too much, the book might just fall off down the public interest, and it falls by the wayside, and you don't get the results that you were looking for. So please don't give up your day job. Just persevere. Just be patient with the publishers. It takes a while, but let us rather do a good job. It makes you happy, makes us as publishers happy, and we want to keep you as an author. We don't want you now to bounce off to another publisher. So yeah, just bear those points in mind.
Okay.
The other thing you can do is marry very rich. Because if you marry rich, you can spend all your time with you. Yeah, of course, marry rich, and then you can write full time. We've got to be realistic with ourselves here. Sven Axelrod, I was talking about, he's an accountant for a tampon company. And he's 3 books down. He's still working. He's still working now. So, unfortunately, until you get to that level, it's hard for you to just go full time. You've got to be able to balance it. It's what South Africa.
It is what it is. It is what it is. So I think that's one of the questions from the youngsters, and more so because they are looking, at the authors, the current authors that we have, in South Africa. They are looking at them, and once there is this perception that once you see someone's book in the bookshelf at the store, then as a reader, your mindset, you are thinking that, Penny has made it. Penny is now exclusive books. So now Penny is money. So there is that mindset. So I think that's why then they get scared. Then they follow these people, and then they're like, something is not right here. So now they then ask those questions. They're like, what can I do? So that is a good answer. So carry on working, and then do what you love to do, and then write. Okay, so that is the best advice, guys. So the audience at home, the kids, youngsters, please carry on with your 9 to 5.
If I can just add another point to that. With traditional publishers, unlike South Africa is different to the rest of the world. In South Africa, we don't really have book publishing agencies. Whereas in the rest of the world, a writer goes to a publisher through an agent, and the agent negotiates your royalties. Sometimes it's a 6 sum up front, or you have to work very, very hard to get royalties paid off once a year. Once a year. Then there's other factors that also need to be taken in consideration. It's the VAT on the book. It's the distribution fee from the publisher. It's the cost to put the book together. It's the cost to the bookshop. Like I mentioned earlier, the bookshop gets a discount. That also gets taken off from the retail price. And now you get your royalty check. Come August, you get a royalty check. Next year, when you must get another royalty check, you'll see lots of minuses. Because that is what the bookshops return back to the publisher.
So the other, I think the other, okay, there's something else that I've seen, and I don't know whether it's like it's always been there or it's a new thing that's happening now, or it's because there's easy access now to the world, you know, for you to actually get your book out there. Basically, it's not the same as before. So there's access, you know, easy access, you know. So now I hear people saying that my book has been translated into another language. And those people, I actually met one of the ladies in one of the book events recently. She was going on to one of the countries overseas. And she was saying, oh, you know what, my book made it, was converted into this language, and I'm going there for the launch of the book. So we see that thing happening now. So I think if that continues to happen, there will also be a shift in terms of now the income for them, because some authors prefer. They've told me from the podcast. Some will say I was working and I decided to focus on the writing because I could see that I'm not producing the high quality that I need to produce. Then I decided that, you know what, I am stopping and then I'm focusing on writing. But they said exactly the same thing. It's quite mature ladies that mentioned this to me. They said to people, please guys, youngsters, carry on working. We decided to take this journey at this point in our lives because we know what will sustain us. So don't just look at us and then that we are not working and then someone else stop working as well. So I think, you've more or less mentioned, you've touched on the same thing that they touched. It's a good thing that you can have 5 books. But
I was telling Graham about Toni Morrison earlier. Toni Morrison used to be an editor for Random House in the US. She was a great editor. She worked there for decades before she published her first book. She wrote her first book, instant sensation. Toni Morrison became Sir Toni Morrison on book 1. That doesn't happen all the time. That's very rare. She wrote the book 2, still working for Random House. Book 2 went in, another huge hit. Book 3 went in, another huge hit. She was still working at Random House US, still editing other books. By the 4th book, her editor said, Toni, I think you could quit your job now. I think you're big enough now. How much money do you want? Just focus on the writing. And then only did she quit. The Toni Morrison, 4th book in, decides to quit working for Random House US. So, and that's a big market. That's the US market. That's nowhere even close to us. But the point of it is you've got to keep working. Like you said, you got your first book to the publisher. We've agreed to publish it. What can you do? My answer, go work on the next book. Go work on the next book, because by the time your first book comes out, you'll be ready with the second book and the third book. Keep working, keep churning them out. Sven Axelrod is a good example of that. Right? First book goes out, second book, loved it. The second, third book goes in, published, and then we publish his third book. So don't throw anything away. Keep everything that you write and keep working, because people need the stories. At the end of the day, it might be a grim picture, but if we stop doing it, what else is there? And we're competing with Netflix. We're competing with attention span of people being that small these days. People cannot sit down and read 20 pages without picking their phone up 10 times. That's what we're competing with. So if you look at it, the game is sort of tilted not in the book readers or book sellers' favor. So that's what we're competing with. So the only way as an author you can actually tilt it a little bit back is if you're hot on social media and you know what you're doing there. So get really good at social media. And then you can tilt it slightly back. So where that guy or that girl is sitting down and she goes, wow, that book is actually amazing. Book Talk is a good example of that. These kids came out and they said, listen, we're going to create a whole new thing on TikTok. We're going to tell people about books on where people are, and they are on TikTok. Right? So many different things sprung up like that. So Book Talk took off, and then what we saw was a few years ago, those Book Talk books, you can ask Chris, started really selling through because people were seeing it on TikTok and Book Talk. And then they were coming into stores and saying, I want the Sarah J. Maas. I want
Can I say something about it? Book talk, yeah. So it's a good thing, but we've seen some books on book talk, and then people are driven by the fact that someone is talking about the book. But then it's not necessarily a good book.
Yeah.
It's just, but the sales are good.
The sales are
The
good.
sales are good.
And some of those books were published like 20 years ago. And now
Someone is talking
it's
about
come
them.
back, come back and
Exactly.
somebody's talking about
Yes,
it.
yes. So yeah, we're seeing a shift, yeah. And it is a good shift.
It is a good shift.
It is a good shift.
I mean, if you look at, if you want to compare, just go to the Santon Bronze, exclusive Santon Bronze. They've got 2 hours just with book talk. It shows you the selection choice there in that genre.
So okay, so my other question is okay, so now platforms where we are streaming, we have young people or aspiring authors, people who want to know from these big publishers, you're coming from the huge publisher. The minute I put it on, who are the top, you pop up.
Yeah.
So people want to know what is it that you are doing for, for the writers. What in that space, what are you doing, as a, like some programs, what programs do you have, for community programs, development programs, those kind of programs that you have, if you do have, or if you don't have them, why, if you do have them, just tell us about them and how are those helping to shape the writers to become what you guys want them to be.
Well, with Pan Macmillan, we don't actually have such an initiative really, but we do have on our website, and you can go and check it out. We do have a writer's resource, a work document there that specifies exactly what is that makes a good writer, what are publishers looking for, how do you research a publisher, because if you write fantasy and I work for a publisher that only do religious books, I'm not going to look at your manuscript, I'm not going to look at your book. So to do a little bit of research about the publisher and like I said, go and check that on our website page. And the other thing I wanted to talk about is that the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, they often do these small little initiatives to support writers, and especially self-published authors, to support them and the smaller publishers. And they also help you getting the audiences, the right audiences for your book. Also in that little work document that we've posted on our website, we'll have the names of the various writing courses, and the contact details is also listed there.
Penny, I'll be honest, we're a big publisher, but we don't actually have a full-on initiative, like a reading initiative. I think that's a great idea. The problem with that, it costs a lot of money to put something like that together. Like a couple of years ago, our CEO had this great idea where he wanted to have a penguin bus and drive it all around the country to schools and everything else and just expose kids. What we have done is we've developed an entire education department. So we've got a whole education department that sells and goes to schools and gets kids reading. Because I think obviously it's in our interest to have a reading market, and that's one thing South Africa struggles with. So we have to develop a new reading market, and or grow the existing one that we have. Otherwise, there is no future for the book business. So we try to start from ground up education from the kids. We get them reading, and they become reading teenagers and become reading adults, and then we keep going. So that's the key. I think it would be a great idea if all the publishers, we all got together, if we shared the costs, and we started a whole initiative like that. That would be a great thing. But we need to get all these guys in the same room and agree to it, and then then we could do something. And it's a really good idea. And I think that we need it. Kids need to be exposed to books, but because, like I said earlier, we're competing with TikTok, we're competing with YouTube, we're competing with Netflix, we're competing with all these things. For people to sit down and read, that's a big thing.
And there are also all these short stories that are, I think you mentioned earlier that it's hard to get people to read because of all this social media, and the kids are not reading. So I think now also they've introduced these short stories that are on TikTok and all these other platforms. So people are glued onto those things. And I really, really think that's also, it's I don't know, like I think short stories, if you want to introduce reading to the communities and to the children, we need to start there with the short stories, because their minds get so um, exhausted very quickly, or they lose focus very easily. So if you want someone to read, maybe start there. People start writing short stories, then big books, because those are intimidating to some people. So if I ask someone, please come to visit our book club, and the person will be like, what book are you reading? Then I'll tell the person, and the person will be like, oh, such a big book, I thought, Penny, I need to start slowly and get into the habits of it. So now I think then people get intimidated, but if the book is good, then it flows. I'm a reader, so I know, I'm not intimidated by the size. But I think writers need to actually get to that point. I think even if you've written so many books, do that. Short stories, they keep people very, very on their toes. When you come back from work, you read a book, you're done. You finish like within like 10 pages, you're done. Here's another short story. Here's another short story, and that's what the social media is doing. So people are glued onto these short stories that are, I don't know, like Koreans or whatever they're doing. It's a lot
You're
of
right.
them.
I think you grab them in a smaller format and then you
Yes.
slowly reel their attention.
Exactly.
Is that what you're trying to do?
That's
right?
what I'm
Okay,
saying.
I got you. No, but I think what it is, here's what it is, right? So you get them interested in these little stories,
Yes.
and then you sort of slowly reel them into the bigger books or the bigger stories, which works.
Mm.
But not all the time. Some people want the bigger books as well. I think a part of it is making kids love the stories and the reading, and just to expose them to it. And it also builds this imagination. When I was a child, I was so glued. I would fall asleep and wake up with a book. So I used to write really well because I had this crazy imagination. And my teachers used to go to my mom, what's happening? She says, I can't get him away from the books. And I got lucky because now I work in the book business. But I think my point is you're right, get kids into it slow, and then sort of reel them in and get them passionate about what they can be exposed to with reading.
Yeah. So we need to get kids to actually read. And Graham, what's your take on this? What can we do to get them to
We've partnered with Malibali,
Okay.
and we've even published some of our books for them in descaled, make it a much cheaper edition of it. And then we would go out into the field with Malibali to the school and do a reading and take some of the staff along, and we interact with the children. And at one of our author tours, Andy Griffiths, we had a launch for him in Bedford. And one of the fans, one of his readers, actually said to him, I couldn't wait much longer for the next book to come, but here's my version of the next book. And he loved it so much. He loved the thought that the little girl has gone the extra mile. And he had to say to her, but I've got copyright on the 3-hour series. Yeah, so copyright is also a big thing that we need to talk about. But publishers and supporting NGOs like Nalibali and the Reading Matter Trust, going out with them into the schools. And another key thing is books in vernacular languages. I know we've got a small market, but that's also very important.
Yeah.
If a child can read in their home language, better.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. We have a question.
Hi, so regarding books with kids, because I have a little brother who loved to read every time he come to the house with a book, but then now he stopped. When I ask him, why did you stop reading? It's because kids at school are laughing at him. Because every time he's sitting with a book, so kids are laughing and telling me, there's TikTok, there's this, why are you reading? So he stopped reading. So how do you come about to stop that, to actually encourage kids into reading? Because now where I come from, reading is not a thing, because I didn't grow up reading, but then as time went, I started seeing there's more in books. Like I get more in books that I get on TikTok than I get on YouTube, because people on YouTube make their own money with me viewing that. So I don't get a lot of that, but then when I read something, at least some things stay. So now he no longer reads, he's always on TikTok, and I ask him, you should start reading. He's like, no, kids are laughing at me. So how do you deal with that? Because kids bully other kids for reading. And I think that's what's stopping the market from growing, because they're not encouraging each other to read. They all care about TikTok, being on videos, being on vlogs. We see kids on TikTok now with TikTok account posting. So that stops kids from reading. So how do you go about encouraging the kids to continue reading, or maybe go to school so that reading becomes normalized, because kids are on social media now, they see bad things, and it's actually very bad. Thank you.
Okay, so I think before you guys answer, I think the other thing is it's fashionable to actually hold your phone and be on social media, and be on those sites like you were saying. So you're seen as cool, as the cool kid, basically at school. So I think someone labeled me at some point in one of the events as there is a penny who is making reading fashionable, because that's my job also. I'm now taking people back. I'm not even wanting people to do audios and do whatever. So yes, people have their different forms, but I'm making it fashionable so that if you see me holding the book, you see it as like, Penny's making this look cool. So I think that's on my side, making it fashionable. But then for people to look at it and say, oh wow, I need to actually also get a book, check her out, she looks good with a book. So I think on my side, just to answer him, that's what I'm doing. The initiatives on my side, on the book club, with the book club and those kind of things, is for people to see that it's not like a normal book club. My book club, I try to make it a little bit fashionable in a way. You guys have been there, and fashionable so that people can be, oh, I want to be there. I really want to be there. Not like an old traditional, book clubs. I want to make it look like an elevated type of book club so that it can attract more people to actually come in and read, and more so the little ones, the youngsters. So I think, so he's directing the question to you guys, but for me, I was answering it as an advocate of readers, because that's what I'm advocating, that people need to read. But for publishers, then you need your books to be sold. So how do you get these kids? Because it's a lot of them. So if they read a lot, they buy them. Then you guys, it's more sales for you guys. So what are you gonna do right now to make sure you take them out of this?
I don't know. The thing with that is, Book Talk is another. Like I said, it's a good example of it, right? So what Book Talk actually did was it brought people to social media. Actually, people were already there. But then what it did for a second was it showed people, oh, this is actually a cool thing to get into. And then they started reading, right? So they made it, the act of reading that particular genre or that book, cool. In terms of your little brother, I think if he's going to be made fun of, when we were growing up, when I was growing up, there was all these terms that got constantly played into our thing. Leaders are readers. Knowledge is power. There was these phrases that just kept getting thrown up when we were young. And I didn't even understand them half the time. But as I got older, I really understood them. Because then I go, okay, wait, so I can pick up that non-fiction book there, and this guy's researching that subject for 4 years, 5 years, 20 years, right? And he's going to put it all into this book, and I can read that book and I can get 20 years of his knowledge in one book. I can learn these things. Wow, that's a cheat sheet. That's something I can get behind. So I'll start reading all these non-fiction books. I don't think you have anything to worry about your brother. I think he's going to rule the roost at the end of the day. Because if he keeps doing it, that's what you got to tell him. You got to encourage him and say, listen, they might make fun of you now, but one day they'll be working for you. Relax, it's fine. Take the hit now, but in the long term, you're going to be the winner. That's proven history time and time again. The people that read and educate themselves are always the ones that rise like that, and they'll work for you one day, so don't worry.
And I want to add to that, kids follows what adults do. See, if the mum and dad and older siblings don't read, they're going to think that's the norm. Yeah. So maybe just go out there and say, let's do Wednesday night. Everybody sit and read a book. Yeah.
Yeah, Graham, I have my teenage boy, he's, okay, so I read a lot. There are so many, we're surrounded by so many books. Like I have a whole big library and whole of books, whatever. Yeah, but it's glued onto you. I hear what you're saying. So it's very debatable. It's hard to take them away, because when he has a book, an English book that he has to read for school, he'll be like, Mommy, can you please just help me read this book? His school book, a tiny book. So he can't even come to my library and pick up the book. So it's a big job. I think it's a big job across the world probably, and more so because of social media to actually get them to that point for them to read.
Just another piece of advice I could give parents is, like I say, for set works for school, you can't do much. You got to read what they prescribe, right? But the trick is, I think, for parents is if your kid loves certain things. The good thing about books is there's something in it for everyone. There's every subject, every style, everything that you can imagine is being published. So if that kid's interested in certain subjects, make him read something along those.
Okay,
You know what I mean? Like if he's into soccer, do you know how many great soccer
He's into
biographies
soccer,
there?
my son.
Yeah, you
So I
can
must get books.
get books on that
On the
subject, and
soccer.
that could be your entryway to other media. Do you know what I mean? Like you can't expect your child to read Catcher in the Rye when he's interested in gaming.
In
You know,
gaming, yeah, that's
so now you can find something in gaming that you can, and that's where the reading starts. That's where you grow to see it.
Anyone else in the audience?
Hi, how are you? I'm good. I'm sorry I was late, so I don't know if you spoke about it, but I wanted to find out. I know the entry level for the royalties for like a debut author is like a 10% benchmark. It's a market royalty. And then when you sell more as you grow, then it grows. So I just wanted to find out from you both, what's the highest royalties that you know? You don't have to name the author, from your publishing houses. What's the highest you know of royalty percentage?
I won't have that information because that's not been disclosed to the entire team.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's
Okay.
between management, the local publishing division, and the author.
Ah, okay, all right.
So you never get it.
That one is the, okay, that's right.
I work again. I'm not as close to the publishers as for those decisions. So I'm going to be a real politician here and tell you, I see some of them. You obviously get big names and big authors, but those conversations happen between the publisher, my CEO, and you as the author, and me as the sales manager. I don't really have that much into it. Yeah, but it can. And look, like you said, 10%. It could go more if you're the author and you sell that. Yeah. It depends on also what we print of you as well, and how many copies you keep selling. Yeah.
Okay, but do you think 10% is you are in the publishing industry, and then there's an author, there's bookstores, everything distribution until you get to the author. Do you think 10% is fair for a debut author, or?
Well, that's on the low end. It usually is a little bit higher.
Is it?
Yeah, that's on the very low end. And like I said, you become an author, you become a brand. Then you can also start. You've got an agent who negotiate, or you negotiating these things. But yeah, it's that is I think a little slightly low end.
It becomes a little bit more trickier, especially when you write a children's book and you're not the illustrator of that picture book. Now you must give half of your royalties to the illustrator as well.
Unless you pay them.
Unless you do a once-off payment. Yes. Yeah.
So my question is, what does your public house or authors actually consider a successful book? Is it in terms of sales or its content or something that you guys think? Because as the public tend to think it's sales. So I, the public, so I'm not really one of the people who like to read that I can say. I'm more into mathematics. So the moment they say that this is a successful book, I tend to think about, and probably sold more sales than all these other books that they released during that particular time, probably. So I'd like to know from you, what do you consider a successful book? Is it in terms of sales, its content, or anything like that? Thank you.
Okay, so I think there's two parts of that. So sales is the thing, because that's the income generator that allows us to generate the pay our people and also gives us power to publish more books. So sales at the end of it, unfortunately, is the thing. As a book lover, reach. For me, it's reach. So the more people that have read it and consumed that book, no matter what it is, whether you're borrowing from a library, or whether you borrowed it from a friend, or whether you bought it at Exclusive Books, that to me is a success. So the bigger the reach, the more people that have read it, it determines that success. But at the end of it all, it comes down to brass tacks, and that's the money that's generated from it. So if a book is selling, like you say, putting bestseller on a book, what is it actually? What does that actually mean, bestseller? Is it 10,000? Is it a million? Is it how many is it? In America, a million is like a bestseller, right? South Africa, if you do 10,000, that's a bestseller. So like like a 0.1% to 1% of that market. You know what I'm saying? So if we do a million books here, wow, that's going to be a great day for us. So sales at the end of it all. That's what matters. So it's how many copies the book is sold. But as a book lover myself, I think it's reached the more people that have read it, consumed it. If everybody knows about it, if it's all prescribed material in schools, that I think is a success.
And also everybody talk about it, because now you expand that reach, and the more people come in to buy, and again, author involvement in the marketing and publicity. That will also base what the success of that book will be at the end of the day. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It comes down to sales.
And I think also we've seen a lot of books as a reader also. So that's why I keep on throwing it like that, so as I don't get judged. So as a reader, so you see a lot of like he's talking about content that's very, very important, and also you're mentioning an author promoting their books, even if they are traditionally published. So they need to do some promotion on their own. So on the content side, I think it's very, very important what we're seeing these days also. And coming back to his question, that some people will write books also just because they are, they're very popular. They're thinking that now, okay, because Penny is popular, Penny can now be about Penny. So there is Penny's book now in front. So now the content that he's talking about then is bad content. Sometimes it can be bad content, then the book's bad. But then maybe you guys will take it because I'm big. I'm big. You'll take the book because you're thinking it's gonna be a bestseller. And then now the content that he's talking about is not good content. That's inside there. When you read it, you're like, what is this? Because me, I do that. So when I read and then a person bring up the book, I read and then what happened here? And also I think with this whole traditional publishing, also I can safely say I really, really think it's a safe space also for for youngsters or people who want their quality like work to be out there. I can safely say that because also I have met a couple of writers who have written books, and I've met self-publishers a lot and traditional published. Self-published, some of them will tell me that Penny, I was rejected 10 times by 10 publishers. But then I'm making it, with my book and whatever. Then I'll say, give it to me then. Then I read the book and then I'll be like, must I give my honest comment why this book was not, because me, I'm rejecting it also. But me, I have this, even the book club ladies, they always say, I never pick. If we're talking about the book, then guys, this book is bad. We're talking about a group and whatever. Then one lady will always remind me, kids will say, Penny's rule is we finish the book and if it's bad, we finish it. So I finished this and that person finished the book, Penny gonna finish the book. So we're finishing the book. However, I do give feedback to people, so long you're not taking it the bad way. Because I'll be like, I know I'm not a publisher, but I know why this book. I'll tell my family very honestly. I'll say, you know what? I know why this book was not published, and it's because of A, B, C, D. But then a person doesn't listen. How can you? Well, I'll never be rejected 10 times. I will never be rejected 10 times and still push for my book to actually be and publish it and stand and say. So some people do that, but I really think it gets now to yourself to look at it and then say there's something wrong. It can't be 10 people rejecting my book, but I don't judge. So I will tell my family, I will tell them about it. But yeah, so it's content is very, very important. I think so. And also, like I'm saying, we sing a lot of famous people writing books and people buying them just because they sing crime outside because brand is popular. But the content is what So it is.
Can I just like, so when we sit in these concert meetings, it's so funny. I had this thought every time I sit down at my concert meeting, and I heard this phrase and it stuck with me. Even the Beatles were turned down 4 or 5 times. The Beatles, the biggest band in the world, was turned down by 4 or 5 different people saying, "We don't like you. You're rubbish. I don't want to listen to your music." And that goes on to be the biggest band in probably of all time, right? So you gotta have that thought in your mind. So when we sit down, keeps me open to an idea of a book. I might not love it, but I'm not the market. She might buy it, he might buy it, but maybe I'm not the market for it. So you gotta be open to those ideas. And the other thing is, I always tell my team, the cream always rises. You wanna be a writer, you wanna be a good writer. Keep writing and do the best stuff that you can do, because I think the cream always rises. If a book is good enough, people will talk about it, they will share it, they will expose people to it. It has to be good. You can't half-ass it. I'm sorry for my language. You can't half-ass. You've got to go full in, and you've got to do the best book that you can do. Otherwise, don't do it. Just don't waste your time. Don't write. It's not worth the trouble. Write the best thing you can do. That's it.
And I just want to say on that, a good book will generate sales. I'm not mentioning the title, I'm not mentioning the author, and Chris can attest to that. There was a self-published book, and it was everywhere in the shops and in big piles, and 2 days later, everything had to be returned because there were so many grammar errors in that book. Yeah.
I know which
Yeah, so I'm not mentioning there. Yeah.
Can I please ask again? So you mentioned AI, and I feel like we're moving into a world of AI. People are complaining, especially university students, because there's a situation whereby you write something yourself, then when you go to AI, it says it's AI generated. So now it's saying humans are not maybe capable enough to write things on their own, or everything that's being written, or maybe AI is getting more human and we are getting more AI. I don't know what's the situation, but that's the problem that we are having. So with AI, when someone maybe publishes a book and you like it, it's a good book, do you check it if it's AI generated or not, or do you just say this is a good book, we're just going to publish it? Because I've had a situation whereby I do not watch a lot of movies, but I have a lot of movie ideas. So sometimes I just write down a movie. I think I wrote a movie about a superhero that can disappear in shadows and all that. I wrote it, I finished it. It was a nice story. I read it to to family members. Then I put it into AI, and it did something a bit better than what I did. And I was like, ish, how about I take this one and say it's mine? Do you understand? So how do you go about saying, Guti, no, this is AI? Do you double check that, or do you just read and be like, oh, this is a good movie, or this is a good story, so we're just going to publish it, only to find out days later or years later, no, it was actually generated by AI?
The publishers are very careful of that. And that's why we've got a panel of reviewers that goes out to more than 3 people, and everybody comes back with their feedback. And from there, we will then be able to find out whether it is AI generated. Yes. But so far, we haven't had any experience like that.
We, at Penguin, it's a big thing, and thank you for raising that. That's a really good question, because I think it's not just writing. I think it's all creative stuff. I mean, you could put it into AI, make it sing in the voice of a famous singer. So you put it. So I think we're on a real precipice now of where creativity is going to be. On the positive side, like I said, I'm a half glass, half full kind of guy. So I think it'll make us more human, in the way that if someone has written a book and it gets published, there's a human element to that book, to every one of these books on the shelf. Whereas AI is not quite there yet, right? I know exactly what you're talking about. I was messing around on AI a couple of months ago, and I thought, let me see how good this thing actually is. And I just put an idea into it, and then it gave me a scenario. And the scenario I gave it was, I'm a guy who's just found out that I can read minds. There's a guy who just found out he can read minds. And it came back with this plot line. And I tested it out on people that I talked to in the industry. And they was like, that's actually a really good story. So the guy what AI came back with was, this guy is sitting on a bus on his way home. He's looking across, he sees a woman across, and he hears something in his head. and this woman is looking at him and she goes, "This guy is going to kill me." And then I thought that's actually really good idea, because who's the guy? Is he the guy that's going to kill her, or is she thinking there's another guy in the bus that's going to kill her? And is he the hero of the story, or is he the villain? It just gave me that opening paragraph, and I thought, and I remember pitching it to one of our customers, and she goes, "I would actually read that book if you wrote it." So you know what I'm saying? So it's hard to tell, but it all comes down to ethics right now at this point. If I took that idea and I wrote the whole book, so I just got the seed, but I wrote the entire book, I developed the characters, I worked on everything. Is that ethical or not ethical? That's the big question right now, and where we land next is going to be very interesting. We don't know. I can't. You think so? I don't know. I'm actually quite optimistic. I think it could be something really good eventually. We just have to be. Elon Musk said this years ago. He said AI has to be regulated, and until the powers that be find a way to regulate AI, it could go way out of control. And that's what I.
Yeah, I think controls. Yeah, that's true. Okay, so we're gonna be wrapping up very soon. Oh, just one question. Oh, two questions. Okay, but let's get yes.
Oh, Samuel, I would want to ask Lucy, do great books need marketing, or can they just survive on the word of mouth alone? I'm talking about great books, not just random books. Can they survive just on the word of mouth, or is marketing basically just a way to get, I guess, lesser quality books out there? Yeah, I guess that's my first one.
That's a good question. So word of mouth is a one portion of it. I personally don't believe you can have a book out there. It's like throwing a rock in a pond. You know, when you throw a small rock and you get little ripples that'll stop here, right? But if you throw a whole boulder into a pond, it's going to be splash and it's going to be a bigger ripple. That's what you want. So as a publisher, we've got to throw as big a boulder into the pond as possible, so those ripples go as far out as possible, so people can hear that you have a book out. Like I said, look around you. You've got thousands of books in here. How are you going to get people to buy your book? You can't. You have to. Marketing has to be so on point. It has to be clever. It has to be interesting. It has to go on social media. It's a whole thing. And I don't think any book could be. Word of mouth will get you there, but marketing will push it further out. So I think marketing is definitely the way to go with it. Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, from the time you publish a book, how long do you wait to see if there are any copies which are not sold? Is it 5 years or what? And do you pulp the books which don't get sold? And a part of that question is, have you ever considered, instead of pulping, to donate them to community which needs books, or school which needs books, because only 10% of the schools in the country have the libraries?
Yes, it's very good questions, yes. We sell a book into the stores, and we give the stores 4 months to a 12-month period to sell as much as they can. So they can start returning after 4 months, but before 12 months. Do that make sense?
Yeah.
Right? And oftentimes they would sell out and reorder. And by the time we normally look at after 12 months of it being published, then we will start looking at putting it onto a remainder list. So now we're selling it at a much lower price, and we would go to EB head office first to see if they would buy it for a sale, and then we would sell the leftover stock to smaller little independent bookshops. Every publisher, I think, do have a donations list. Again, this is 12 months and older. And every year we select books that goes onto the donation list. And when we partner with NGOs with like Nali Bali and Reading Matter Trust, then we would take out of stock from those titles that's on the donations list, and we would donate to those NGOs. Sometimes we donate to schools as well. And yes, like you said, only 10% of schools really has a functional library.
Yeah, that is true. So all of the above. we try and get managers to be able to sell that stock so that they don't have to send it back to the warehouse. So that's where we come in terms of marketing, publicity, and all that stuff. And pulping is really almost a last resort for us. It's really not what we want to do. So donating those books is also a common thing for us. We give a lot of books away. So it also adds to the reading market. So if you donate those books, they go out. These kids read it, they fall in love with it, and then we develop new readers, maybe. So it's a positive aspect to this.
Okay, so now we're wrapping things up, guys. There is one question, and I just want to hear from the audience if somebody can actually get this question. I always ask the authors that come to my podcast, but this now is going to come to you in a different way. So, what is that last question that I normally ask authors who come to my podcast? So, can someone raise a hand? And please, I'm so disappointed. Please, somebody. Okay, there.
What do you want to be remembered as?
Yes. So I always ask the authors who come to my podcast, that's the last question I always ask them. I always say to them, in 100 years' time, how would you like to be remembered? But then now it's turning now back to you guys, how I'm asking this question. I'm going to change it a little bit. In 100 years' time, how do you perceive the world of African literature changing from what it is today?
I think it's going to be more vibrant. We're going to move away from just too much of the struggle material.
Yes.
We need more local romance, right? I don't see why we can't have a Daniel Steele in South Africa.
Exactly.
We need more local romance, and also in our market we have a big lack of local fantasy and sci-fi.
Yes.
And graphic novels is also, it's still in its infancy stage, but it's picking up because reluctant readers, they prefer looking at the graphic novel and read the graphic novel. So the more graphic novels we can publish, and that could also help getting your brother back to reading, because graphic novels are still being seen as comics. And that's what I want to see. And also the turnaround. Currently we are doing 80% distribution and 20% local. Why can't it be 50-50
Why it be?
in 100 years' time?
80-20.
Or 80-20, yes.
Okay.
I think that's a good vision. I like that one. So I think in terms of African writing, you always got to look back. That's what I think. So 100 years ago, what did African fiction look like, and what does it look like now? We've produced a Booker. Damon Galgut won the Booker Prize a couple of years ago. So that's an international stage. That's the international community saying we need more African stories. We love that story. That's their story. That's what that's telling us. So I think in terms of the platform, I see the platform getting bigger, especially with technology. So in terms of reach, we're not going to be boxed into just Africa now. We've got a wider platform, so I can see that opening up. And once that opens up, our stories can flow out. And the world wants those stories, because we've done the European story and the American story. It's there. It's always going to be there. God bless them. But I think people don't know, especially across the pond, about the African stories. And I think if we open it up, we might see a big resurgence of African fiction, which is the positive way to look at it.
So 100%, I think the world is ready for it as well. And you mentioned it, you touched a good point. I think before we were seeing, each time we walk onto exclusive books, the only thing that you'll see is politics, the struggle, that's all that's been, like the books that are in the stores. But now we are seeing the shift.
Yes.
There is a big shift. There is the lives of all these women. Tagalani, she's in the audience. We have all these authors that are coming out now. So I really think it's looking very, very bright. It's looking very bright in the future. And so I'm very, very excited for what's to come. So thank you guys very, very much.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
And everybody else who's streaming on online, and the audience, thank you very much. You've been a lovely audience. And please, everyone who is watching online, please just click those ticks, comment and subscribe to Bookmark Conversation. Please tell us what you think as well of the show, and whatever questions that you might have, I will still direct them to them if I can't answer it. But yeah, please follow us on Bookmark Conversations, and yeah, just make sure that you don't miss other episodes from our side. Okay, thank you so much, guys. That is all from us. And thank you, Chris. Thank you so much.
I'd just like to thank our very special guest, Graham Isaacs from Pan Macmillan, Ms. Chetty from Penguin Random, and of course, our doyen of interviews, Penny. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a wonderful evening.